Hello, your bike fitness coach again. This time, as promised, again, part 3, where we're going to dive into insoles. What makes a good insole? Which one should I get? This is the other part that comes along with the shoes. So, for example, here's a shoe where you're going to use. So, based on last video, in the comments, tell me, is this a good shoe, a bad shoe? What did we talk about last time? So here's a cycling shoe, low volume cycling shoe. And here is the insole for that cycling shoe. Is this a good insole? Yes or no? What are your thoughts? Is this a good insole? My first impression would be no. Look at this. It's just a flimsy, floppy piece of non-supportive foam, actually giving you no support other than a little bit of cushion along your metatarsals. Other than that, how much support is that? So anyway, diving into the video. Again, if you missed part 1 or part 2, go back and take a look at it. Part 1, what do we look for in a good cycling shoe? Part 2, we discussed a fix for the cycling shoes that don't provide much cleat placement. That was the midfoot cleat positioning, midfootcycling.com. Look them up. It's a great product. So a few years back, I actually wrote a lot of the cycling and as well as insole manufacturers and said, hey, I'm going to be doing a test on Road Bike Rider for insoles. What makes a good insole? So send me your best cycling insole you have. And I got about 20 different models. Here are the results. Every insole maker claimed to make a cycling insole. The fact was very few actually did. In fact, there were only 3 that made the finals. The other question I get was, well, what about my podiatrist? Can they make me a good orthotic or an insole? I actually tried that as well during this insole test. It came to the conclusion that they do know how to make a good running insole for a high volume running shoe, but they do not know how to make an insole for cycling, which is a very low volume shoe. And again, if you put a running insole in a cycling shoe, there's about 0 chance that you're going to get your feet into the shoe without squeezing your foot somewhere. It's just going to take up too much volume. A running insole going to take up too much volume in a cycling shoe. So cycling insoles are really specific insoles for cycling shoes only. So what do I look for? I look for good foot and arch support. Again, this has a little bit of arch support here, but again, there's not much, as you see, there's not much support in the arch. So I look for also specifically made for a low volume cycling shoe, and the price. If you get a custom orthotic, you could be spending $700, $800, $900 on an insole. So maybe you don't want to spend that much, and we'll get into some other options a little bit later on, what the top 3 were in the test. Specifics are, what I looked for were foot arch, height, location. For example, if you get a standard insole and your arch is hitting back here instead of here, you can get a slightly smaller or larger, depending on where your arch is. You can adjust where the middle of the arch support is. If you get a larger insole, it's going to move a little bit more forward. If your arches are more forward, a little smaller insole, going to move it a little bit backwards. So you can fine tune a standard insole to fit your foot and your arch correctly. I also look for a metatarsal bump, which, as you see, this one does not have one. The issues I see are primarily for cyclists with very high arches. They have more tendency for the arch and the foot to collapse on the downstroke, and that will usually, without a metatarsal bump or what I call the transverse arch support, will collapse the foot up in the forefoot. It'll compress the nerves along the bottom of the foot, and that's one common issue for toes going numb. So if you didn't know, there are three main arches in the foot. There's the medial longitudinal arch, which is basically the inner arch where most people know about, as this is the only arch in the foot. There's also a lateral longitudinal arch. There's also the transverse arch. If you want to feel your transverse arch, you can take your shoes off and put your thumb right behind where the middle toe is, the third metatarsal in the center. Come down a little bit and push your thumb in, and there'll be a big hollow concave area. That's the transverse arch. That's what will collapse when you have high arches and you push down hard on the pedals, and that's what usually causes the toes to go numb. I also look for about a 2 millimeter, which this is about a 2 millimeter thick gel or some kind of a supportive closed cell foam, and usually a gel heel cup, which this does not have, that holds the heel in from sliding and from moving up and down in the shoe. In general, those are four more specifics to look for in a cycling insole. So what about width? So it's actually more important on a shoe to get the width correct regardless of the length, meaning that if the length is at least as long as your foot, if you need to go longer on the shoe, it's okay as long as the width will have enough width in the box here, the toe box area, to not squeeze your foot. Most customers that come in have a friend or somebody that's told them, oh, hey, I like this shoe, go out and buy this shoe. They buy the shoe not knowing that they have wide feet. Most Americans have wider feet than the normal cycling shoes allow. Again, these are made a little bit smaller for low volume. The manufacturers don't want your feet sliding all over the place in the shoe. So what happens is most people's feet are slightly wider than the shoe, and that starts squeezing their foot on the side, and they got a lot of pain on the outside of their foot, right behind the fifth metatarsal, along into the arch of the foot on the outside. So that's what happens to a lot of customers that come in. And again, you want to look for length first. Don't go shorter, then start looking at width on different shoes. Some manufacturers like Lake Cycling will have regular, wide, and on some shoes they have extra wide. So you can fine tune the width. You want to get a wide enough shoe. For example, I just did a test, a look through some of on the last chart, you'll see some shoe manufacturers that I've listed as having actual sizing charts on their website. And I've come to the conclusion that one manufacturer's, as an example, EU44 size is not another manufacturer's EU44 size. They're completely different. It's like in America, we have a 10.5, and there's 10.5, there's 10.5, and they're all different sizes. Some might be 9.5, some might be 11. They are all 10.5 doesn't mean 10.5. 44 doesn't mean 44. You have to try on that specific shoe. If you don't know the size of the shoe, here's the options on a new shoe you're considering. Option one is that the local bike shop has the shoe in stock. You go in, you try it on. It fits or it doesn't fit. We'll get into a little more about how to size the shoe in a little bit. Option two is online only. You can use the manufacturer's sizing charts. And again, most don't have length and width. Most manufacturers, if you dive deeper into their sizing charts, they have length only, but no width. So again, I highly recommend you frequent the manufacturers that are telling you what the length and width is, because you'll have a higher success at getting the right size shoe when the day is done. You'd order the shoes. Once they arrive and you try them on carpet only. A lot of manufacturers will accept returns as long as you don't mount cleats and you don't scuff up the bottom, because they want to turn around and put this back in the box and sell this as a new shoe to the next person. So never mount cleats on a shoe that you're not sure that this is the size. The manufacturers usually will not take the shoes back. So a good example of a sizing chart is Lake Cycling. You go, there's a pages size chart. They take you through the whole process of measuring your foot, measuring for the shoes. They have different levels of shoes. They have endurance / race shoes. They have pure race shoes and comfort shoes, mountain bike, tri shoes. So we'll get into that a little bit later as well here. Continuing on, here is the issue. If you can see, this foot is superimposed over a arch support or an insole. And if you look at the foot, it is much wider than the insole. So here is my recommended process for finding out if your shoes are going to be wide enough for your feet. Number one, you remove the insole. Number two, with thick socks, you put the insole on the ground and you step on the insole. And you feel around. You're going to feel around to see if any part of your foot exceeds the width of the insole. Because remember, the insole is the exact size of the inside of the shoe. If your foot is wider than the insole, it's going to be wider than the shoe, and you're going to have tremendous pain after a few minutes riding the bike. So remember, put your foot over the insole, step on it, and measure. If any part of your foot is wider than the insole, the shoe is too narrow for you. As an example, you also want to look, I get a lot of clients are now, because of California, a lot of people are being hit on their road bikes, being run over by cars, etc. A lot of people are now going to gravel bikes and they're going to mountain bikes. They're getting rid of the road bikes and they're going to gravel and mountain. And they come in and ask me, what's a good shoe? As an example, a lot of manufacturers will take a road shoe, which has a very good sole. In this case, this appears to be carbon fiber flock, injection molded into some kind of a thermoplastic that is a stiffness level of 10. I think the Lake shoes, being the full carbon fiber, is about a 14 hardness. So it's the next level up. Now, what Lake also does, and what I've seen other manufacturers not do, is that they have where the shoes, the soles are exposed, they show the full carbon fiber or carbon fiber. And on the mountain bike shoes, where they cover up the sole of the shoe with a lot of the rubber bits and bobs that you see on the bottom shoe there, it's plastic underneath. It's not carbon fiber. If you look at this Lake, for example, that's one thing to look for if you're looking at mountain bike shoes. Make sure that it's of the same origin as the road shoe. So if you look at this bottom shoe, the top shoe would be called the Lake CX 238. The bottom would be the MX for mountain bike 238. And it is the same full carbon fiber profile and sole. Both shoes are the same, except for where the slots are cut into the shoe. So if you look at the mountain bike shoe, it's one of the only ones out there that is a full carbon mountain bike shoe, just like the road shoe is manufactured. So let's get into the top 3 insoles that met all of the criteria. Number 1 was ICEBUG. There is the link, the website. You can search for ICEBUG insoles on Google. They're about $47. They have a low arch, medium arch, high arch, and they do have a tremendously large metatarsal bump that does fill up the transverse arch completely, preventing your forefoot from collapsing into the shoe. I've used them for 8 or 9 years now, and each insole lasts about up to 3 years of almost daily riding. You get a lot of good utility out of them. I scored them a 10 out of 10. The next is G8 Performance. They're about $129 for the 2620, a very good insole as well. But if you look at the difference in price, I kind of dinged them a little bit on the price, as well as the metatarsal bump doesn't support a higher arch person foot than the ICEBUG does. So they do have 5 different arch heights. They have a plastic, 5 different plastic inserts that you can snap in. There's holes here, like up here. There's holes here, and there are pins on the arch that you can move in and move up and down, move forward and backwards. It's a very good custom provided insole. You can get a lot of custom fit from that insole for $129 if you compare it to a full custom insole from a podiatrist. You're talking $600, $700, $800. So for $129, if you need a purely custom insole, I would highly recommend the G8 Performance. But for most people, the $47 ICEBUG is going to be more than enough insole. It's going to last you. It's going to fit you. It's going to be everything that you need in an insole the ICEBUG has. Number 3 is right now Specialized. I just checked their site for $29.99. They have a discount on their body geometry insole. They have a red model, blue model, and green model. They have a low arch, which is called the Plus. They have a Plus Plus, which is the medium arch, and the Plus Plus Plus, which is a higher arch. These offer more support than most other, let's call it the flimsy, feeble, floppy pieces of foam that come out of a standard cycling shoe. Rate these a 1 out of 10. Just throw them out. They're gone. So go with 1, 2, or 3, and we'll get into where they fit into each other on the arch height. Next screen. So basically, comparing the insoles, the highest arch is the ICEBUG. The G8, you can have equivalent of the same higher arch. Specialized, it's not. They're essentially, their highest arch is equal to or a little bit lower than ICEBUG's lowest arch support. G8 Performance, because of the 5 different arch options and the adjustability, they cover all of the ICEBUG and most of where Specialized is. So in summary, what we talked about last time is when you look at for shoes, you turn the shoes over. Do they have slots or do they have holes? Holes, throw them out. Slots, keep the shoes. The location. If you look at what FIZIK has done, they've done something unique, is that they've actually not only include slots, but they've moved the slots a little bit further back, allowing this cleat placement to fit any and every road cyclist that would come in. Now, again, FIZIK's shoes are a little on the narrower side. If you have narrow or regular size feet, these are very good shoes. Next is a twist test. Can you take the shoe and twist it? This one here, not much. It's pretty stiff, even bending it. No, it's very stiff shoe. Is it a composite sole? Yes, this is a composite carbon fiber flock, not full carbon fiber sheet that, for example, or cloth or weave that the lake would have, but carbon fiber flock. You can kind of see the mottled effect here. Injection molded, what appears to be a thermoplastic. Again, very, very good, wear resistant, tough. It's got a nice rubber heel protection, so you're not stepping all over the carbon fiber. Again, a very, very good shoe. Carbon fiber sole is even better than the composite sole. Again, this would be the lake. And the insole, make sure you do the insole width test. References, you can either select them here or I can put them in the description. But here are the three: ICEBUG, G8 Performance, and Specialized, links to their site, as well as lake sizing. If you want to go, Lake Cycling has a sizing guide. Specialized has a detailed sizing guide. BONT Cycling has a detailed sizing guide. FIZIK has a detailed sizing guide, as well as DMT. Some of the other manufacturer, the main manufacturer that you don't see here, have just length, and they say wide or not wide. Well, how wide is wide? It's a relative word. Somebody's wide is somebody else's narrow. So these actually have measurements where you actually measure your foot at home, and you can run those into the size, and then you can get the exact size of insole and shoe that you need. So with that, we're going to sign off. Any questions, leave them in the comments and we'll get to them. And I will put this references in the description, and hope you enjoyed it, and hope you get something out of getting the right size shoe via the right size insole. Until next time.